Greetings. I'm Reverend Mark Harmon, and I would like to welcome you to a new podcast produced by the Becoming Beloved Community Team, the racial justice advocacy team of the Greater Kansas City region of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. We call ourselves the Becoming Beloved Community Team because we acknowledge we are far from the full realization of the type of community that God desires for us. But we are committed to carrying on the mission that is a cornerstone of our denomination, to restore wholeness to a fragmented world. The founders of the movement that became the Christian Church Disciples of Christ believe that seeking unity, not uniformity, is the key to restoring wholeness. Let me share why we chose the subtitle, Living at the Intersection of Faith and Justice. I think, at least for some, faith and justice are seen as an either-or proposition. Statements like let go and let God reflect the theological perspective that if we just pray hard enough and long enough, and hand it over to God, problems in the world will eventually go away. But is that really true? While I don't deny the power of prayer, and I certainly don't deny God's ability and power to effect change, both the biblical narrative and history have shown that God most often works through people of faith who are, as the prophet Micah shared, doing justice, acting kindly, and humbly following God's direction. The stories of Joseph, Moses, Deborah, David, and Nehemiah are examples of God working through the faithful to restore justice and wholeness. Also, Jesus made it clear that it is our task as disciples to do the work of justice, caring for the needs of the least of these, not to sit back and wait for a miracle. But there seems to be an issue that prevents many Christians from engaging in justice work. An example that just happened to me might illustrate that issue. Our denomination is hosting a forum to discuss the impacts of the Big Beautiful Bill on health care and food assistance programs like the Affordable Care Act, Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP. It will also include an exploration of ways to resist by using our prophetic voices and through organizing peaceful protests. While some applauded this offering, others felt it was promoting a political agenda. From my personal experience, this isn't an unusual reaction. Is this really a promotion of a political agenda? I don't think so, and here's why. In reality, calling out injustices ceases to be political when the policies and actions of the government directly contradict what God has repeatedly revealed to be of such great importance. By one count, there are more than 2,000 verses in the Bible that directly relate to justice. While Micah 6:8 is probably the best known, we find a similar message being delivered by other prophets. For example, God tells us through the prophet Isaiah, learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Who was being the oppressor? Who was it the orphan and widow needed to be protected from? It was the people and institutions in power, empire. Who was it that God tasked with doing the work of justice? It was the people of faith. If you believe, like I do, that the biblical narrative is accurate and timeless, then it applies today just as much as it did nearly 3,000 years ago. When you think about our call to be justice seekers, what does that mean to you? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word justice? In our modern setting, we probably think about justice as being something primarily carried out in a courtroom where the guilty are punished for their infractions. While that's certainly one aspect of the biblical concept of justice, there is a greater emphasis on it being a means of giving people what they need for a meaningful existence. Another way to think of it is that the justice we are called to be agents of is restorative, not punitive. When we live at the intersection of faith and justice, our faith informs our understanding of justice. Our acts of justice reinforces our faith. And that's what we hope to explore through this podcast. We'll kick off the first series on November 30th, the beginning of the season of Advent. We'll drop a new episode each week of Advent with an additional episode on Christmas Day. This first series will follow the traditional themes of Advent, but in a different order And we'll focus on how those themes relate to being disciples in a time such as this and seeking to be faithful to God's command to care for the marginalized and the oppressed. The themes for this Advent series will be love in a love-starved world, peace in the chaos, joy in the valley, hope for the faint-hearted, and on Christmas Day, the shared life. We hope you'll join us for this journey.